Hi, I'm JD Park,
I'm TJ Shelley.
and this is One Stop Real Estate. So today we wanted to talk about how to get tenants into your property.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people get worried about vacancy and they want to make sure that their property gets rented out fast, but they don't really know the best methods to do that besides just putting it on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I've written up some things that I believe to be good practice and a surefire way to get people in your properties. There are going to be external factors that will affect the property that you have no control over besides on the purchase of the property. Certain things like location, and then also depending on the year built, those can affect the property with Class A, B, C, and D properties.
Yeah.
So with those set aside, these are the things that are controllable for you. The first thing is attracting the right tenants. How do you do that? I think the property has to be rent ready.
Yeah.
It has to be turned if there was a previous tenant, or it just has to be professionally cleaned, any repairs needed. I think the repairs that need to be done for sure is carpet cleaning. I don't think anybody wants to move into a place that the
Definitely.
carpets, you don't know what's in there. You don't know if the previous people had pets.
Yeah.
Even if you are the only one that has lived in the property, I would say it's still good practice. It would make your tenants a lot happier, and it also attracts better tenants.
And I feel like it's not too expensive. Like, how much is carpet cleaning? Like $80, $100?
Yes, I mean, I think
Probably
our
more,
services
but
are like 200 or
yeah.
300, but still, I mean, if you put that into your lease and you have a tenant turnover and you say, hey, look, no matter what, we're going to charge carpet cleaning on your security deposit because you
Yeah.
moved in with carpet cleaning, it sets the expectation for the tenants. And we, as a property management company, we don't really get a whole lot of backlash because they've
Yeah.
already got that expectation coming.
Yeah.
So just having it nice is good. And then also any major holes or problems need to be fixed. Like nobody's going to want to move in and have a dishwasher not work,
Yeah.
or a big gash in the side of the house that just needs to be patched and painted.
Yeah.
Our goal as a property management company, when we put a new tenant in, is to not have any maintenance requests from the tenant for 30 days.
Yeah.
Just so we know that we did a good job, and it also builds rapport with the tenant for them to take care of the property.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to attract the right tenants. The other way to attract the right tenants is pricing appropriately. If you price it in a range of like under $1,000 for rent, you're not going to be attracting like families or anything like that. So having a nice place and pricing right is going to be key. And I wouldn't say go for under market value. I know a lot of owners want to price their property at a discounted rate to be nice and charitable to the community.
Yeah.
While I respect that, it doesn't really boast, hey, this is the best property you can get into. And you may put it in the description, but 9 times out of 10, people will look at pictures before they read any description.
Along with that too, where do you go to find what you should be charging for rent? How do you determine what fair market rent for an area or for what a property is?
Absolutely. You determine a rental rate based on active listings in that same area. So you can go to Zillow, Rentler, all the ones that have a map, put in a mile radius or even just the general area, and then find like properties. If yours has 4 bedrooms and 2 baths, find properties that have 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. And you want like and like. So if it's a townhome, make sure you're looking at townhome comps. So anything active will show you what you should be listing
Yeah.
at and what you're competing with. For finding the home value of a property that you're going to sell is a little different because you use sold comps within the last year or so within a mile radius. And so that's the difference between finding a home value and finding what you should be renting it out for. I know certain websites will give you an estimate, like a rent estimate.
Yeah.
I would say those can be accurate, but they can also miss pretty hard. So make sure you just do your own research to find the right. You can also get second opinions. You can call up a property manager, say, hey, do you have anybody managing property in the Provo area? Call them, and then you can actually get active comps that are currently leased.
Yeah.
And they'll give you, say, like, they say they have a like property in Provo. They're like, oh, I have 4-bedroom, 2-bath being rented out at $2,300 a month right now.
Yeah.
And it's currently leased. So I think just doing some due diligence and doing some legwork on finding correct comps will save you in the long run. Of one, you get the most out of your property, but then also you're attracting the right tenants.
Yeah. So what websites, when you're checking for these comps, what websites are you using? Is it just Facebook Marketplace? Is Rentler relevant? Like what websites are relevant to finding this?
So any website that has comps, like that has leases for rent.
Yeah.
I use Zillow a lot. I think in Utah specifically, everybody uses Zillow.
Yeah.
That's just the big player here. I've talked to some people that live up in Washington, and Redfin's a huge one for them. So they'll use Redfin. I don't think there's any restrictions. If you can find something marketed as an active comp, use it. KSL is great for Utah.
Yeah.
I do know that they've changed their policies a little bit, and it's kind of gone downhill with popularity because now you have to pay to get a listing on KSL.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see KSL get phased out a little bit from those free websites.
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace is great, especially if you can find a community like a Provo Orem or student housing community, and you can look through those groups of what people are offering.
Yeah.
Also, it's a good idea to post your property in there, which is my next topic, is advertising. When people think of advertising, they think, what's physical? Can I like hand out flyers? Do I need to put up a sign? The sign thing is a little interesting because it's case by case. Typically, I would say, go ahead and post a sign. The owner of a company, he tells a story of a property that is across the street from a smoke shop.
Yeah.
And you can actually discriminate against people for smoking. And you can say, hey, we don't allow smokers in the unit. You can't smoke or vape. And if you put a sign up right across the street from a smoke shop, who's going to be calling you? It's going to be the people coming out of the smoke shop. They're like, oh, this would be great right across the street. Like if I need my late night fixing, I can just go across the street. So you want to be careful and make sure that you're in a good location. But the majority of the time, a sign is great. Advertising on websites like Zillow, Rentler, KSL, apartments.com, those are all great websites to put your property on. Our property management system syndicates out to all of them at once. So that's a useful tool that we have, is we don't have to write a separate listing for every single one. When I sell a home, that is one of the pain points that I have, is if I put it up on the MLS, but then I have to go to KSL, Facebook, and do it individually. And it's just kind of time consuming. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just kind of a pain in the butt sometimes to spend your time doing that. With Facebook Marketplace, I know that's kind of where everything's shifting in our world. I mean, I look for golf clubs on there all the time. I know that you in the past have done like flipping on there, things like that. And I do think it's a good place to put rental properties up, but you will receive a lot of inquiries that don't lead to anything. Like, you can get hundreds of messages and maybe one or two will show the property and actually be a qualified lead, because there is no way to pre-screen those before someone inquires.
Yeah.
On a lot of websites, they have specific questions of how much do you make? What's do you have any pets? Do you smoke? And they won't allow inquiries to get past that if they don't qualify on the pre-screening. So Facebook, you just get a lot of interesting characters.
Yeah.
Not to say it hasn't worked at all for anybody.
Yeah.
But from my experience, that's what I've seen. And making sure that the right tenant goes into the property can be helped by that pre-screening event. If you were going to pre-screen someone, and when I mean pre-screening, it's just certain questions that you ask before you show them the property.
Yeah.
Just off the top of your head, what questions are important for you that you would ask a potential prospect?
Yeah. So when we started renting our townhome in Saratoga Springs, I think a big thing is people want to come see the property, and then when they come to see the property, that's when we kind of say like, oh, like, how many people are living here?
Yeah.
Are there any pets? And you learn about the people. Being a loan officer, I was just concerned about their ability to pay rent. So
yeah, absolutely.
I asked for their credit scores. I couldn't pull their credit because I'm not doing their mortgage. So I just said, okay, like, send me a screenshot or screen recordings of your credit score.
Yeah.
Send me pay stubs in ways that I know that you can afford this property, because I don't want to ever have to evict somebody.
Yeah. So you focus on how many people are going to be living in there, if there's any pets, so potential liabilities for the property.
Yeah.
And then you want to know if they can actually pay.
Yep.
And which I think is all great. When you request how much they make, what rule have you used? And I'll share what we use at Vision. But what rule do you use to say, hey, you make this much, you can qualify for this property?
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard because I don't see all of their liabilities. I'm not requesting bank statements.
Yeah.
But I know if somebody has a credit score over 700, then if I just follow like a 50% ratio, then it's not going to, like, I shouldn't have to worry too much.
Yeah.
So basically, like, if somebody comes and say I rent my place out for $2,000 a month, if they have pay stubs showing that they're above 4,000, then I feel comfortable saying, okay, like, more than half of their income, like, they have good credit, they're making a reasonably good decision. So that's what I based off of.
Sweet. Awesome. So you would say over double. So double the rent.
Yeah.
Okay. So at Vision, we use actually 2.5 to 3 times. Our standard was 3 times, but it depends on their credit.
Yeah.
Because if their credit is good, we'll do 2.5. But if their credit's bad, we want to make sure it's 3 times the amount. So if rent's $3,000, they have to be making $9,000 a month.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't approve them. If they still want the place and they don't make it, we will do a guarantor.
Yeah.
Just someone that will guarantee that if they default or can't pay, that we're still going to get paid. So, no, that's great practice. I mean, that's very smart to do.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you thought about that and made sure. Because that's really the list that I had. I mean, my pre-screening questions were, we do a little trick for smoking. We don't say, do you smoke? Because everybody's going to say no matter what, because they know. But if we say, do you smoke inside or outside?
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, well, I smoke outside.
Yeah.
And they tell you that they smoke, and then you can disqualify them.
Yeah.
Because we all know people that smoke outside, it sticks to their clothes for one, but more likely than not, when it's wintertime and they're a little
Yeah.
lazy, they're going to be smoking inside.
Yeah.
So, and that's a little trick. And you can, and vaping counts as well.
Yeah.
So if they vape, you can actually decline them.
Yeah.
We ask if they have any pets, how many, what kind, just to get some more information. ESA animals are a protected class in the state of Utah. So if they provide proper documentation, you have to let them in to the property.
Yeah.
When I say proper documentation, you need a signed letter or document from a professional. So there's a lot of websites that you can sign up and get a certificate from. Those are scams. Those are fake.
Yeah.
If you're looking to get into an ESA, get an ESA for your animal, do not go to those websites.
Yeah.
So we also ask how many people will occupy the property just to comply with zoning laws.
Yeah.
Our typical guideline is 2 per bedroom plus 1. So if it's a 2-bedroom house, you get 2. So you would have 4 plus 1 for the living room. So it'd be 5 people occupying it, which is a lot for a 2-bedroom, but that's just kind of the rule of thumb that we use if a zoning law is not in place.
Yeah.
The other question is, what is your desired move-in date? We ask that because we don't want to hold property for somebody for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're trying to get money for our owners as soon as possible. If they're like, hey, I'm not moving in for 2 months, 3 months, and I'm just looking now, like, I applaud the preparation, but in a rental market, it's
you need to get in the property.
It's like you're looking for properties a month before and a month to 2 weeks before and figure it out then.
Yeah.
Which is kind of stressful, especially when the other option is you get a crappy property or you go homeless.
Yeah.
So, and then we ask for the income. The other thing that I would recommend is doing background check and credit checks.
Yeah.
I know that as an individual, you're not going to be able to do that. As a property management company, we are able to do that. And we just have them sign a document. We do a soft pull credit just to see what their score is, what their history is, and you can discriminate if they have a criminal background. So we just want to avoid those types of tenants because of their history. And then the last thing I would check is rental history.
Yeah.
Being able to call previous landlords and previous management companies is a good sign of if they're going to treat your property right. Because you just hear horror stories all the time of property managers and landlords having their tenants trash the property. I mean, you see videos on YouTube, and admittedly, they're really fun to watch, but you never...
you don't want it to be you.
Yeah, exactly. So doing this portion will prevent that from happening. When you get a rental history, oftentimes the management company will need some sort of signed documentation to release their information. If it's like an individual landlord, they're not going to ask. You just call them and say, hey, look, so-and-so's applying for one of my properties. What was your experience like with them? Were they ever late on payments? Did they have any complaints about them? And then the other question I would ask is, would you rent to them again?
Yeah.
Because if they say no, you're like, I don't know.
Maybe not.
Yeah. And another little tip of information that can be used, that can be abused, which I wouldn't recommend abusing it, but if you own less than 4 properties and rent them out, you can discriminate against whoever you want. It's your property. You can say no for whatever reason without any potential lawsuits or discrimination cases coming against you. As soon as you have more than 4, you have to abide by fair housing laws. I say this that it can be abused because the fair housing laws are there for a reason. I mean, everybody thinks and believes that everybody should be treated equally.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't say everybody. There are those people out there.
Yeah.
But everybody should be treated fairly and equally. So when it comes to renting out a property, I think ethically and morally you should still abide by them.
Yeah.
But if for whatever reason you feel off about a person or something like that,
Yeah.
you have that right if you have under 4 properties to decline them for whatever reason. So the last topic that I wanted to talk about was when your property is sitting on the market for over a month.
Yeah.
It's you just paid an entire mortgage and it wasn't covered by rents at all. It kind of hurts, and oftentimes people think the only option that I have is to drop the price because that's the reason that it's not getting rented is I have rents too high. Now I'm here to tell you there are other options to pursue before dropping the price. If you did your rental CMA correctly and you're like, this is the number it should be renting out for, or you have a specific number that you need to meet in order to break even on your mortgage, whatever the case may be, there are options to still get the money that you want. The first one is half off first month's rent. So just a move-in incentive saying if you move in by this date, we'll give you the first 15 days of the month free.
Yeah.
And that will actually incentivize those people that may not have a down payment for the deposit and first month's rent to get into the property. And they may be living paycheck to paycheck or whatever their case may be. It can help open up the pool of potential buyers.
Yeah.
You can do a price drop, but then you can also do a amenities fee.
Yeah.
So if you're in an HOA and you're trying to charge $2,100 a month and you're not getting any traction, you don't have an amenities fee, you can say, hey, look,
$1,900 and
$1,900 and a $200 amenities fee. And we've seen people look at that initial rent price at first as the indicator if it's a good property to see. And then they'll find out the details after they go see the property.
Yeah.
So doing that is a little trick that you can use to get people looking at your properties.
Yeah.
You can also drop it down to, if it is $2,100, you can do $2,099.
Yeah.
Because when people do their searches, it's typically at certain prices. Yeah. And so if you just drop it down a little bit, a lot more people will see it. It may be at the top of their price budget, but another little trick. Allowing pets. Here's one that I would look at as a last resort because pets can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
They can be a problem in many ways where they're either tearing up your carpet. I've seen them tear at baseboards and doors where they just scratch and beat up a door.
Yeah.
We actually had one that a pet was urinating on an AC unit.
Oh, no.
And the acidity from the urine
corroded
it and caused it to break.
Jeez.
And so an entire AC unit had to be replaced, charged to the tenant.
Yeah.
Fortunately. And so they can be a hassle if you have LVP in the property completely and maybe it's in an apartment so you don't have to worry about the exterior that much.
Yeah.
I would consider it. But pets allow you to get additional deposits.
Yep.
There's not a places that allow pets for renters. So when people are searching, their options are very, very limited.
Yeah.
And then you can also get additional money for pet rent. Our typical guidelines for charging pet rent is $75 to $100 per pet. We do a $300 pet deposit, but then we also do a $200 initial pet fee just for us to consider, and that's non-refundable, and that's just pocketed for the owner. So that's another way to see if you can get the full amount for your property. You can also do extended and shortened leases.
Yeah.
So some people don't want to be locked in for a year, especially students. They want to say, hey, I want to go to school for 9 months and then I don't want to be here for the summer. So you can do that. Some people actually want the opposite. And they're like, I don't want my rate to change for 2 years no matter what is going
Just
on.
lock me in.
Yeah, so lock me in for 2 years. I've had people want to do 5 to 10 year leases because they're just like, I want this property locked in. I don't want anything to change. I don't want to buy. I want to rent.
Yeah.
So having flexible lease dates can also help you. And then the last thing is changing to buy the bed. If you do buy the bed, there are some caveats of you get 2 rooms rented and the third room just sits vacant, and then you rent out the third room and then you just have cycling vacancies, which can cause a lot of stress. But you can get certain rooms rented. You can open up the pool to individuals. You can still offer a full lease, but it's just another option that you can pursue. So that's all the advice that I would give on getting tenants and making sure that your property doesn't have vacancies and the marketing behind it. I know you had some questions. If I didn't cover any, feel free to ask them.
I guess, how often do you guys see, what's your typical vacancy with all the properties that you guys manage?
Yeah, so case by case is going to be different. We have certain properties where owners don't want us to drop the price below certain things, and we pursue these. We've had a property in locations where there are no other comps.
Yeah.
Like clear up in the boonies, we had a property in, it's by Camas. I forgot the city name, but it's really small.
Yeah.
Really nice area, and that one sat on the market for a good amount of time. We eventually got it rented, because we used the allowing pet strategy.
Yeah.
But it was on half an acre. Like, you get those rare properties that will sit longer. Typically, if it's a condo in a popular area, you don't really see anything longer than a month.
Yeah.
We also have a system in place for vacancies where I think it's like a 21-day system where after a week we make this change, after 2 weeks we make this change, after 3 weeks we do this, and then after a month we do a complete reassessment with a supervisor, or and we also make sure that we're updating the owners every single week of what's happening, what traction we have, what changes we can offer.
Yeah.
We also have in our management agreements the capability to change within a certain percentage. I think we're allowed to change 10% of rents. So if somebody wants $2,100 a month, we can negotiate till a $210 discount. Which we don't typically like to do, and you have to have a license to do that. If your property manager doesn't have a license, they're not allowed to do it. But it's just, we want to get the property rented, and if you think about it on a long scale, $100 drop, and you get versus a like 2-month vacancy, you would actually be making more money on $100 drop than a 2-month vacancy versus a 1-month vacancy, because mortgages aren't cheap.
No, especially now they're not cheap.
Yeah. So you would rather have a lesser pay but still having it get paid. So I mean, $100 in 12 months is $1,200. So if that's still less than your mortgage, like, it's better to have that than a vacancy. So
I think my other question is, so for your regular person, like, you guys do credit checks, background checks. I know, like, anybody has access to a free credit report if they go to annualcreditreport.com.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good strategy if you are picky about really wanting to have a complete credit report. You can have them request it there, but for background checks, is there any place that just a regular person can get some type of background check completed?
Yeah, so we have it built into our system where we run an application and it automatically feeds back to us. I don't know if there are some. I'm sure they're out there. You
Yeah.
probably just have to pay for it. I think in the long run, it'd be better to just pay for it.
Yeah.
An interesting thing that came to my mind when you were talking about that is renter's insurance.
Yeah.
You can actually require renter's insurance for people to rent your property. So if any damages come to their stuff, you're not liable for it. And it can just add some extra protection to the place. So that was just another thing that popped into my head that could be useful to someone out there.
Those are good. Let me see if I have. Yeah, I think we went through all the questions that I would have had. So
awesome. If you guys do think of any other questions, feel free to reach out. I think that's a thorough overview of things you can do to make sure that you are getting your property rented. I hope we provided some value for you there and just kind of changed your mind and opened your, I shouldn't say change your mind, opened your mind to some other options that maybe you haven't thought about before. But thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
The One Stop Real Estate Podcast is a production of Vision Real Estate.
I'm TJ Shelley with First Colony Mortgage, NMLS 1674331, with First Colony Mortgage, company license 3112.